tonight's program with Marjorie Turner Hollman. She actually grew up in Florida, and for some godforsaken reason, she liked the snow. She grew up in New England. She received a Bachelor in Arts in History from Bridgewater State College. She's been a freelance writer for the past 17 years. She's written for the Christian Science Monitor and the Bellingham Bulletin, as well as numerous other regional and national publications. She is a personal historian, and she has produced a dozen veteran oral histories through the Bellingham Mendon Veterans Oral History Project. She's the author of this first volume of Easy Walks in Massachusetts, as well as a second volume, which covers the towns of Ashland, Dover, Easton, Foxborough, Framingham, Holliston, Hopkinton, Mansfield, Medfield, Natick, Norfolk, Sharon, Sherburne, Walpole, and Westboro. She gets around. And Ms. Turner Hollman also resides in Bellingham. So would you please welcome Marjorie Turner Hollman.
Well, thank you all for coming. My biggest joy is, besides doing these walks, is sharing them. Because whenever I'm there, I'm saying, oh, that would be something neat to share. Oh, look at this. Isn't this cool? I actually have a Facebook page, so if you're on Facebook and you go to Easy Walks in Massachusetts, you can see where else I'm going, because I don't seem to be able to stop. So that's very updated things, and I like to custom these slideshows for each town that I visit. And so, with being in Milford, you of course have the wonderful Milford Bike Trail. And I wanted to start on the newest section of the bike trail, which is the missing link. And there was a little confusion just before then about where this was. This picture is taken pretty much if you park at the back of Hannaford's grocery store on 109. And then if you look away from Hannaford's and go to the right, it's right there, and it's a wonderful about a mile section. It's all paved. You're a block off of Route 16. You would never know that Route 16 and how nasty it is and how busy and crowded it is. You would never know. It is quiet. It's really lovely. What a wonderful gift. And I just love the woodland. There's some stone walls. Here's another section just of it to let you know that that's my granddaughter and my daughter trying out the trail. And it's very stroller friendly. It's handicapped accessible. It is a gift. And the people of the Friends of the Milford Bike Trail, the Upper Charles Trail, have done a masterful job of getting this put together. It's really amazing, and it's someplace that we go to when we say we just want to do something quick, and we hop right over here and get on our bike and go. You probably will recognize Louisa Lake, and that's one of the easier parking lots to get to, right on Dilla Street, and just such a pretty spot. I remember when Louisa Lake there was just a dirt track along the edge, and it is so accessible now. It's really a joy. I always like to show this picture when I'm showing this section, because this is a little peek at the mighty Charles as it's coming from Echo Lake, from Hopkinton, down through underneath and around the trail, and it gets you into the mighty Charles. Starts off as a kind of a trickle, and it just always gives me a chuckle to see that. The other section from where the missing link continues it goes from Hannaford's to Friendly's and then crosses 109. It goes up behind some businesses on 16 towards Fortune Boulevard, crosses Fortune Boulevard, goes under 495, and then it turns into stone dust. And it turns into stone dust and goes all the way up to Holliston Center. It is still in process, but the people of Holliston have done basically what the people of Milford have done and are financing it themselves. They're not looking for DCR funding. And the people of Holliston just approved the last funding to purchase the last sections of the trail. And so there's several sections that are done. This is the Phipps Tunnel, which goes over Highland Street in Holliston. So it's about a mile south of Holliston Center. And it's a really neat tunnel. If any of you saw things in the paper at New Year's, this section of the trail, they do a lantern walk at New Year's, and they fill that tunnel with lights, and they cook hot dogs, and they have bonfires, and they roast marshmallows. Oh, that was wonderful. It was the first s'more I'd had in quite a while. And it was freezing, but everyone was bundled up, and it was really, really fun. And the stone dust is white. It was a full moon, and it was just wonderful. So that's worthwhile for making a date for your New Year's plans, if you don't do something else, is to go over to the Holliston section of the Upper Charles Trail. Right now it's a U from the Hopkinton line on 85, comes down to Dilla Street to Louisa Lake, down through Milford Center, Pheno Field, crosses 16, goes down a block to where the missing link picks up. It's right by the church at Route 16. You have to go down that street right there. Is that the St. James Church? I'm not sure what church is. Sacred Heart. Okay, so it's a block down from there, and then the missing link, and then you can connect all the way up. So if you're riding a bike, I think it's about 10 miles each direction. It's substantial if you're going to be riding a bike. Not many people I know will walk that far in one walk, but it's a great asset. And this is what the trail looks right by Holliston Center off Central Street. There's several limited places for parking right now. Probably the municipal lot right in Holliston Center is the best place to aim to get parking to access it. There's also parking to access the trail right by the Phillips 66 station on 16, just before you get to 126 by Fatima Shrine there. Also in Holliston, while we're in Holliston, I wanted to show you just a little peek of the Adams Street Conservation Area. If you have parked at the Hopkinton Town line to get onto the Upper Charles Trail, you have been on the opposite section of this property. It is 1,000 acres bounded by Route 16, 495, and 85. And some of the best parking is right here on Adams Street, which you can access. It's about a mile east of 495, just off of 16. And it's a massive area, but it's got trails all through it, and the people in Holliston are still working on getting those trails developed. Right at the other end of this 1,000 acre property, this contiguous property, is College Rock. That's over the line into Hopkinton. So you've got Milford, Hopkinton, Holliston all together, and it's 1,000 acres that the towns have actually, I think, worked together to get that property all consolidated. Some of you may know the mountain bike area of Vietnam, the NEMBA, New England Mountain Bike Association property. That's in this section of property as well. So College Rock is, it's something that you can use if you're a rock climber, which I'm not, but if you look at the slope on the far side of it, you can see there's actually a very gentle slope up. Just don't go over. So if you're wanting to climb up it, it is actually a fairly accessible little scramble. I'm not going to do that either. But it's a small area. You can completely circle the rock, and then you can head on south into the Holliston trails that get you to the Adams Street Conservation Area. Yes?
Anything behind the name College Rock?
That I don't know. I don't know. It's College Street.
Oh.
It is the access is where the parking is, but I don't know where College Street. I didn't spot any colleges right around there that I know, because it's right off of 85. It's like 0.2 miles from 85 on College Street. Hopkinton State Park is another wonderful, wonderful asset. If anybody is interested in kayaking or sailing and you don't own the boats yourself, this is a great place to go and rent them. It's a good place to go and try them out. It's a nice sized pond. And lots of nice trails. There's a heart healthy trail. DCR has been trying to establish what they call heart healthy trails. And there's one very, very near where the boat rental is. And those have to have a little bit of incline, which this one does. It's got some nice stone walls, and it needs to be a loop. And loop trails are always nice because then you get back to where you started, and you don't have to say, I've gone far enough, I need to turn around. So it's got a nice loop trail. It's also got a nice dike that created the whole pond there. And I'm not sure exactly the size of it all, but very nice. On the other side of Milford is Hopedale Parklands. Does everyone know Hopedale Parklands? I'm always amazed at the people when I say, have you ever been to Milford Hospital? And they say, oh yes. And then I say, you've been a half a mile from Hopedale Parklands. Hopedale Parklands was begun 100 years ago, so we're getting into the history of stuff. Have any of you ever gone to the carriage paths up in Acadia? You know, the beautiful, beautiful carriage trails. Hopedale Parklands is a carriage trail around Hopedale Pond, and it was begun and finished before the trails in Acadia were even started. So it is a precursor to the carriage trails of Acadia. So when you don't feel like driving for 6 hours to get up to the carriage trails at Acadia, you can just go over to Hopedale Parklands. And it's about a 2 mile, not a complete loop, but it's almost a loop. And it has 3 different places, 3 different parking. The town beach area is Dutcher Street, and I believe it's Hopedale Street. So if you went to Milford Hospital on 16 and just kept going to the next light, I believe that's Hopedale Street, hang a right, come to the first stop sign, and you can see the pond is right there, and you park right along the street. Where the Draper Mill is, you can also then hang a left and go around, and there's a back side of the pond there, and that there's more parking around the backside. And then there's a third one on Hazel Street, which is right on the edge of Milford. I forget what exact town it is, 140 and Hazel Street. And it's the far backside. So there's 3, excuse me?
Across from Countryside.
Exactly, yes, the geriatric center there. Thank you, yes. Yep, and it provides your own natural slides. So it's got great rocks. You can see my grandson and son-in-law are taking the stroller on some of the carriage path, and we had a group of kids, and they just could not stop scrambling on the rocks on there. But they're child-sized rocks. You know, it's not something they're going to get in trouble. They're not going to get really stranded, and they just couldn't stop sliding down the rocks. It was really a lot of fun. And there's kayak rentals at Hopedale Pond as well, at the public beach area in the summer. And so if you don't want to go over to Hopkinton to rent a kayak, or you feel like it's too crowded, you can just go down the street to Hopedale Pond and rent their kayaks if you don't have a kayak. The pond is very shallow, and you can't go terribly far, and especially if it's a dry summer, it will get pretty shallow. But this was last summer when it was pretty dry, and there were still places for them to paddle. Moving just a little south from here, because Hopedale is part of the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor. In fact, it's going to be one of the sites with the new national park. They're planning a visitor center in Hopedale. And so moving south into the Blackstone, we go to Mendon, and this is Meadowbrook Woods. And it's a little town, town property, and I don't have all of the details. It's going to be in the second edition of Easy Walks, because I keep learning these properties and I keep finding these places. But it's got a stream that's more than you would want to wade across. And the Bay State Trail Riders, which are a local horseback riding organization, have constructed some bridges to cross this stream. And it connects that property, the Meadowbrook Woods, with Cormier Woods, which is the only trustees of the reservation property in the Blackstone Valley. And that is actually in Uxbridge. But the properties are adjoining. So if you're looking for a longer hike that's connecting trails, that's something that the connecting trails from Cormier Woods do connect over into Meadowbrook Woods. So if somebody's a real trekker and wants to do a more extended hike, there are hikes available with that. Just down the road from Cormier Woods is West Hill Dam. And that's, you find that these properties are overseen by so many different people. Sometimes it's town, sometimes it's DCR. The trustees of the reservation, but this is an Army Corps of Engineers property. And what I really like about the Army Corps of Engineers is that they plow their lots. So when you find a lot of places, a lot of trails in the winter, they're just snowbanks, and you just can't get to them. And God bless those Army Corps of Engineers. They got those lots plowed. You may have a big pile of snow that you have to climb over to get onto any place to walk, but the parking lot is clear. So that's just something, and it's just it's got a swimming area, it's got a big dam that's a big sunshine. We like to go there in the winter when it's not snowy like it was last winter, so nobody could walk. Along the dam, it's sunny and bright. We have seen lots of different wildlife there. It's got lots of different between wet and tree cover and open. You get a lot of different wildlife because of the edge communities that provides. Just down the road from West Hill Dam is the Riverbend Farm. And this is the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor. This is the towpath for the Blackstone River Canal. And boy, you're looking at history there. History that was nearly forgotten for almost 200 years. Took them 20 years building that canal. People decided that the Erie Canal had made all this money and they were going to build a canal from Worcester down to Pawtucket to get central Massachusetts, to have a way to get things to market. Took 20 years, lots of Irish immigrant labor digging those canals. And 2 years after the canal was finished, the railroads opened up to the west and the canal went bankrupt and it was abandoned. Up until, I think, the 1980s. And I think I'm not sure exactly when the Heritage Corridor was founded, but it's been in existence for at least 25 years more now. And these towpaths were almost completely grown over. And so this shows a lot of work that they've done reclaiming this. You would have, anytime there's trees between the path and the canal, those trees would not have been there because there was a rope pulling a barge that it was towing along that path. It was a 50-mile trek. That was quite a bit. But there's some wonderful, wonderful spots throughout the Blackstone Valley that show you tastes of what it was like. This stone bridge was part of the canal. It's just beautiful. That's Hartford Street, Hartford Avenue in Uxbridge. And the canal comes through there. Isn't it lovely? It's right by where the doctor's office is.
I've never seen it from that perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you drive over it. Yeah, you're missing this beautiful, beautiful spot. beautiful stonework. It's just amazing, very humbling. And then if you walk from Rice City Mills, which is on the opposite side of the bank from where Riverbend Farm is, go up the east bank of the Blackstone River and scramble up a whole bunch, you can get to Lookout Rock, which is actually like that far over the line into Northbridge. And, or you can drive the street that's parallel to the river, and there's a lovely parking lot that the Blackstone Heritage Carter has now built that you can park and go, maybe have a quarter-mile walk. And I do have to kind of crab walk to get up onto the rock to get this view, but it's worth a crab walk. I'm not proud. When it comes to views, there's just not that many in our area. And so when you find that there's a view, I'll do a lot to get to a view. And this is one of them. But it's actually a very easy place to get to. And so that's looking south down the Blackstone River. If you follow 122 from Uxbridge Center down south from there, you're going to come to Millville. And this is the most extant, I believe is the word, lock that still exists along the whole section from Worcester to Pawtucket. And that lock is taller than me. It's really quite impressive and huge. And it's just sitting there right next to the river. It's just this gorgeous little spot along the Blackstone River. But the access for it is right near Millville Center. And in fact, this section of the access to it is part of the SNET, which I will show you later. Starts in Franklin, goes through Bellingham, Blackstone, Millville, Uxbridge, and ends in Douglas. It's still a proposed rail trail, and a lot of work is still getting done, but we're seeing some real progress on it, and I'll show you some pictures of that in a few minutes. But that's the Blackstone River. If you walk along the SNET, past where the lock is, that same path, it's under construction right now and will be paved when it's done. It is actually going to be a continuation of the Blackstone River Trail, the Blackstone River Bikeway, which starts down, I think, in Central Falls and stops in Woonsocket right now. But this is going to be part of it. This is what you're looking at right now. It's called the Triad Bridge. And if you can imagine, there were 3 different train lines that crossed over each other in one spot. Well, as opposed to having them take turns. But it's just remarkable. What you see on the right is the decking is now getting used right now. That's what the SNET will be covering. The rail line on the left is actually still an active train line. And the embankment, the big stone retaining walls up at the very top of the picture, that was the 3rd line that went across. And all that's left is that retaining wall. And then, I'm not sure if you can see it in this picture. It's not. There's a little retaining wall just down in the river. And that's part of what held the 3rd crossing. But this is the Blackstone River, and that's the view you're going to be able to get from the SNET looking down the river in Millville. It's just gorgeous. So I can't wait till it's done. It's supposed to be by midsummer that it will be complete, and that section of it you'll be able to walk. It's not terribly long, but they're working both sides of Millville Center headed over towards Uxbridge. I'm not sure how big that whole section is yet, but it's exciting. If you go a little further down 122, you're going to come to the Blackstone Gorge. You may have seen the brown signs for the Blackstone Gorge on Route 122. And this is the most remarkable spot. It's another place with a view. Once you get up to the very top of it and look up on the rocks, you climb up 88 feet over the river, and you're up in the treetops. It's really quite lovely, and there's always the sound of rushing water, which I just love. And the parking for it, it's just a block or so from 122, and the parking for it, you go past all these little houses that are just, you feel like you're in the middle of Beaver Cleaver, middle America, and then you take one more step and you're on the Kankomagus Highway in New Hampshire. It's just the most jarring, sudden, wonderful change, and it just never ceases to tickle me. It's also one of the places I've probably gone for the longest of when I was first learning about outdoor places in this area. And when I first went there, you just had to kind of park along the side of the road. And God bless those people with the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor. They've made parking lots. And I don't like to worry that my car is going to get towed. Does anybody ever think of it? Yeah. And so I've worked really hard with the books to make sure that if I point you to a trail, there's a place that you're going to be safe to park and not get towed. So that's pretty important to me, and I think to other people too. So there's a wonderful place to park at the Blackstone Valley, at the Blackstone Gorge. And this is just a look at the Blackstone River Bikeway, and this is actually just a little south of Woonsocket. And the river is right there, and it's all paved, and it's actually heavily used. Some wonderful, wonderful waterfalls, worth the trip. So going back up just north of here is to the Upton State Forest. This is the CCC camp. It's the only extant headquarters of the CCC in the state that is still here, still in existence. The other buildings, I think, were put up very, very quickly in the Depression. It was all part of the Public Works, the Works Progress Administration effort to get men back to work. And they brought people out to the wilds of Upton and put them to work building trails like this. And you got another carriage trail right in the Upton State Forest. And I'm not sure exactly the mileage on all of this, but there are extensive amounts of path that these men built while they were working and getting paid and caring for their families. So it was the Depression, and things were hard, and this was getting them outdoors. There were a lot worse things they could have been doing than building trails in Upton. This is the West River. It's another section of the Upton State Forest. Upton, as opposed to a lot of towns, if they have a state forest, it's a contiguous piece of property. Foxborough has that, Franklin has that, Rentham, they're contiguous properties. For whatever reason, Upton's properties for their state forest are broken up. And this one is right behind the Nipmunk High School, which is the Upton, I think it's Upton and Mendon Regional High School. And it's a real simple, easy loop trail. The difficulty is access because it's at a school. And there's a couple other trails that do have are behind schools, and that you just have to understand you don't go till after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That the school department is not going to welcome the public coming on their property when school is in session or there's going to be activities. And there are many other places to go. You just go on the weekends. You got the whole summer. So I don't encourage people. I strongly advise against trying to go to a piece of property like this when school's in session. So go afterwards. Peppercorn Hill is another place in Upton that is very, very close to the Milford line. I've looked at it from the map. It's kind of Dilla Street to Purchase Street, and then up around. It's a little convoluted. Is that? Yeah. 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 It's very, very close to portions of Milford. Yeah. But it's barely qualifies as an easy walk. This hill I put in to let you know that really isn't an easy walk. There are other trails on the property that you can approach the hill that are easier, but they're much longer. The reason I scrambled up this and then scrambled back down it was there is a nice view. So, and you're looking towards Worcester that way. The trees are starting to grow up, but it's still a nice view, and I'm really glad for that. So that was worth the climb. If you go from Upton into Grafton, you probably have driven by this on Route 140, and this is Silver Lake in Grafton. There's a Silver Lake in Bellingham where I live. There's a lot of Silver Lakes. This is Silver Lake in Grafton. It's their town beach, and so you do have to pay for parking, or they gate the parking in the winter, which is not very kind of them. But it's got very neat stones, and there is public access to the trails. There are wonderful trails beyond the beach area at Silver Lake, and you can see these gorgeous, gorgeous rocks. There's little sort of strips of land that you can get out into the midst of the pond, and it's really quite nice. But the street just south of where the town beach entrance is, I think it's Nantucket Street or some such. It's a new little housing development, but there are signs on the road that say, if you're here for hiking, you can park on the street. You are invited. So, and you don't have to pay the whatever or get a yearly membership for the town beach if you just want to go and walk on the trail. So that was a nice find. Of course, they also must have some really kind of dumb beavers in Grafton. And, you know, we just looked at that and laughed and said, what was he thinking? You know, there's just no figuring, but you just figure this is not going to turn out well. And so, but it just, I mean, you just never know what you're going to see. But we could walk right up to it, and it's just, he decided to chew. It's sort of like chewing on your own roof. I don't know. Those beavers in Grafton, I don't know what they're thinking. But, and then we're over to Franklin. And this is another spot that has been very, very recently developed. Up until just a few years ago, Ernie Delcart ran a bait shop on Pleasant Street in Franklin. And there were these lovely ponds, and people would come and buy bait from him, and they'd say, what would it take for me to get to fish in your pond? And he would say, you don't have that kind of money. And when he died, he left the ponds and the property to the town of Franklin so we all could enjoy it. But they've been working to develop it. And in fact, they've rebuilt the dams to make sure of the integrity of the ponds. It is a loop trail. It's just about a mile loop trail all the way around the pond, so you get pond views all the way around. There is one spot that was a little problematic, so the town put in a little floating bridge. And it's just the coolest little thing. And so it makes a fairly simple loop trail. Not paved, but it's just a nice trek through the woods. You do not want to wear open-toed shoes. It has not been used enough for the poison ivy to get the message that it should go somewhere else. So you do want to make sure you have your socks with your pants tucked into your socks and your closed-toed shoes always. Just don't wear open-toed shoes and flat flip-flops. It's just don't do it. So
There's a place where you should train beavers to eat the mosquitoes.
I know. So.
And the poison ivy.
You can also boat here. You can kayak and canoe, not motorboat for skiing. It's too shallow for that. And you can fish, but it is catch and release only. So you can fish, but you still can't take the fish home. So a lovely place. Now we get to the Snet, which starts in Franklin. On Grove Street, right off of Route 140 in Franklin and 495. Grove Street is the first street just west of 495 and 140 in Franklin. Go about 2 miles down, there's parking on the left, the trail is on your right. And it's in process, so they're still working on it, but people are using it. It's a straight track. The Friends of the Snet are having events regularly, fundraising. They're lobbying the state for funds. They've gotten sections of it, and in fact, when you go over the line into Bellingham, within walking distance of my house, this section of the trail, you get farm views like this that are just lovely. You could almost see my friend Donna's sheep in there. They're out there somewhere, but I'm not sure exactly where they are. And this section of the trail between Lake Street and Center Street in Bellingham is just getting finished getting a water pipe for the town put in, and because the town needed it, they said, well, when we finish doing it, we'll have the contractor put it to specifications for what the trail needs. Yes. So by this summer, it will be ready, and it's already pretty well in good shape, so, from what I've seen. If you go on over the Millville section of the Snet, and then this is the Uxbridge section of the Snet on the far side of 146. And it's in good shape, even though I think they're starting to do some work there too. It's already in pretty good shape. It's at least 15 feet wide. Easy walking, and just a straight shot getting you right over into the Douglas State Forest where it ends. Back into Bellingham, my little neighborhood, this is actually up off High Street, which is an athletic field. There's a flashing light on 126 as you come south from 495, just before you get to the center of town, High Street. The High Street fields, there's a trail at the very back of the fields. And it's a little half-mile walk to this gorgeous, gorgeous spot on the Charles River. So after it's flowed from Milford into Bellingham, it looks like this. And it's just this quietest, secret little spot that you could ask for. There's actually a house right behind me, so it's their backyard. But you wouldn't even know that it was there. And there's some trails that you just have to keep heading south. The trail is not marked. I do my very best in my book to describe, and I've been told you can find it following my directions. But I've also spent time lost in there when I didn't know it as well, and you can get into some really nasty mosquito-y spots. Ask me how I know. And you can make husbands really grumpy when you do that. But it is buggy when it's not late fall. So this is a spot that you would need to put on bug spray. You would welcome that. But it's just so pretty. I've been there in every season. It's really worth the walk. If you head on up into Medway, this is Sanford Mill in Medway, which is right off of Village Street. And it's got a little canoe put in for the Charles River. And this was the Sunning Rock. Historically, this is right on the edge of a historical spot in Medway. They used to it was called the amphitheater. They had big town picnics right behind the town hall, which is right on Village Street in Medway. And right there, it's one of the few access points to the Charles River. It's the hidden Charles up in our area. There just aren't a lot of access places to find the Charles. And this is one of them. You do have to wend your way through the Sanford apartments. It's an old mill complex that's been turned into condominiums. And it's a little intimidating because it says only for residents, but there is access to open space at the far end of it, and you are welcome because you are the public. And as long as you don't block any of their parking places and stay right on the very edge of the property, it's a nice little quarter-mile loop with views of the river. So I just wanted to let you see how the Charles keeps changing from Milford as it goes downstream. Also in Medway, Choate Park. This is a view from the Thayer House, which is a newly restored historical building that is at Choate Park overlooking the pond. There's a trail that goes around the pond and then over to Medway High School. And it's just a nice, easy walking trail. And you might not want to take a stroller, but you could. It's really packed down well. It's got a little bit of a slope, but it's got pretty views all the way around the pond and then off into the woods, some nice stone walls. Over in Norfolk, we've got Stony Brook, and that's a Mass Audubon property. What's really wonderful about Stony Brook is first that it's small, that it's very accessible, and they went over and above in making this accessible. What you're seeing here is the opening trail from where the visitor center is, and the rope that you're seeing along there is designed for people who are vision impaired. And they've won awards for this section of trail. It's not a lot of it, it's only about 1,000 yards, but all the rest of the loop they have made so if you've got babies with strollers, it's got ramps. So you can, even though it doesn't qualify as handicapped accessible through the whole property, it is stroller accessible. And that's worth a lot when you've got families that you want to take grandchildren, children, and you don't want to have to carry them all the time. So this part of the trail won awards. I believe the Perkins School for the Blind gave Stony Brook an award for this trail. And the people at Stony Brook said, well, how come we won? And they said, because you talked to us when you were building it. You didn't just do something and say, aren't you glad we did something so nice for you? You thought about the design and then invited the people who were going to use it to give their feedback. And they in fact gave them feedback that altered the design and made it usable and made it so they said, you win the award. So the moral is, if you want to do something nice for any group of people, ask them what they need. Don't just think that you know what they need and then be surprised when they say, thanks, no thanks. So, because that could happen. And this is one of the views from the boardwalk at Stony Brook. Lots and lots of birds. I've seen water snakes from the boardwalk. We've gone looking for spring peepers. There's ducks floating there. Turtles go under the boardwalk often. Lots of birds. There's a nice waterfall. It's just a lovely child-sized, family-sized place to visit right outside Norfolk Center off 115. If you go over to Rentham and park either at their senior center off Taunton Street or their DPW, if you drive in just a little bit beyond their senior center off Taunton Street, which is from Rentham Center headed south, kind of parallel to 1A. This was the old ski hill in Rentham. And though I didn't show it in this picture, I need to go back and take a better picture. If you look just to the right of this picture, you will, which you can't see because it's not there, but if you look just a little over to the right are the buildings of Boston that you can see from Rentham. It's really quite remarkable and very clear. I mean, it's just not even maybe you're pushing it there, right? It's just a straight shot. There's nothing in the way. So this is called Nuck-Up Hill or Sweat Hill. And there's still the old ski equipment for the rope tow that they had is still at the top of the hill. It's just a fire road to get up there. It's a gravel, very good condition fire road that takes you almost just to the last little, you have to take one little turn to get up into the flat area where the view is. So very doable. It is a climb, so it'll get your heart going, but it's not boulder climbing. It's very, very easy. At the other end of Rentham looking south is Joe's Rock. And Joe's Rock is probably what got me started doing these first series of books, because I'm a personal historian, but I'm a writer. I've helped families get their family stories down in book form, but I'm also write for the newspaper, and I wrote a series of trail articles, and one of them was Joe's Rock. And I didn't have any place to to put them. Nobody wanted to put them on their website, and I said, well, I'll just put them on my website. Wouldn't you know, people kept coming to my personal historian website and looking for Joe's Rock and finding my website. And I said, I think there's a need here. And that's when I started looking for where are the other trails. And at this point, I've done 25 towns and 65 trails, and I've only scratched the surface. It's just amazing. But I think Joe's Rock was what really it woke me up. I kept seeing these people looking for Joe's Rock and finding my website. I think there's something going on here. People want to be able to find walks that are right around the corner from where they live. You don't want to drive 2 hours to walk 45 minutes. We are blessed, blessed, blessed in this area with all sorts of wide variety. Long, short, middle size, lots of views, water. We don't have the ocean, we don't have the mountains, we have some views, and we have easy walks. And that's what I think makes this area very, very special. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you so very much for coming.